And sometimes it rocks our world, but the same thing when it comes to following the truth. Sometimes it rocks your world. Sometimes
Mhm.
you realize something that you were taught for years is really not accurate. But if you love God and love truth, you come out good. You always come out on the right side.
Yeah, well, that's see, what you said really resonates for a couple of reasons. One is because I was raised a Republican and I left the Republican Party and became a Democrat. So I'm actually technically now a registered Democrat.
Really?
And I spent years as a Democrat. And then here's the and then part. And then because of some of the things I was watching in the media and with Trump and all of this kind of stuff and how it was all coming out, how extreme some of these people are being on the left side, how there's ideas of gender fluidity and all this kind of stuff, and the abortion in the later terms. In first place, I can't stand abortion at all, but in the later terms seems particularly egregious. And so, and I started realizing, like, when I remember when I was pregnant, the nurse referred to my baby. My son had two soft markers for Down syndrome, and she said, "Well, you can just terminate the pregnancy." And this is
Mm.
at 15 weeks when he's like, I see his little arms and his legs, and I thought, "What do you mean terminate the pregnancy? That's just sick." And so this resonated so much. And so I started thinking, wait a second, maybe I'm following the wrong side. And then I noticed all the atheists, like it seems like 90% of them tend to follow the left side. And I thought, here I thought I was being noble and righteous, and I was doing all of the right things by picking the side of that's helping the weaker. And I realized, wait a second, no, I'm on the side that I actually honestly think that is being run by very dark forces in some cases.
It's interesting that the Democratic Party platform was built on some radical ideology, and obviously no party represents us fully. I register independent, even though I vote
Yeah.
Republican, just as a matter of conscience and to make a statement that I don't register with either party. Just my own practice. Everyone has different ones. But
Mhm.
when the Democrats were there was a survey that was done, I believe it was last year, it could have been 2019, but a survey was done and they discovered that the people that consider themselves religious nuns, so they NONES, they've dropped out of religion, they have no religious belief. They didn't consider themselves atheists, but religious nuns. And then atheists and others, overwhelmingly, they supported the Democrats. So they began to advertise like we're your party, and others said that that may not be the best thing to do because it's going to alienate people of faith. But you have to ask, okay, why is that? Why is it that such a high percentage of those who drop out of religion in general and a high percentage of those who identify as atheist or agnostic vote Democratic? And it's not because one party's smarter than the other. It has to do with deeper ideologies. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's a reaction against religious hypocrisy and the religious right siding with Republicans, and we can get a bad name in a certain way. But a lot of it is ideology. That look, when you have a humanistic viewpoint, you are not going to look at the baby in the womb as created in God's image. When you have a humanistic viewpoint, you're not going to recognize God's creation and distinction between male and female. When you have a humanistic viewpoint, you're not going to see the holiness of sexuality within the bonds of marriage. There's so many things that you won't see. It doesn't mean that you can't be kind-hearted as an atheist. It doesn't mean that your atheist neighbor is not a better person than you as a professing Christian, but it means overall, when there
Mhm.
is not moral absolute because there is an absolute lawgiver, then everything has to be ambiguous. There's no such thing as evil ultimately. There may be something that's
Mhm.
painful or that you don't like, but there is no such thing as evil because there is no ultimate morality and good, and everything becomes utilitarian, and then survival of the fittest in the end. That's what it comes down to. Look, there is no moral issue when a spider catches a fly and eats it. When the lion is chewing on the zebra, the lion's not thinking it's a shame that for me to live the zebra has to die. No, because they're animals, they're insects, and morality is not part of their makeup. Well, if God himself does not exist, if we are all the random products of a freak evolutionary process, then ultimately we can develop what we call a morality, but it's just neurons firing. It is utterly
Mhm.
completely subjective. And in the end, if our whole neighborhood was starving, people would be humanitarian to a point, but then ultimately it would be, if I have to kill you to live, I'm going to kill you. I mean, people would ultimately resort to that unless there was a fear of God and an acknowledgement of God. It would come down to survival of the fittest. And look, that's why here we are in the 21st century. and we have how many hundreds of billions of dollars of nuclear armaments stocked up, because we have to make sure that we have more than the other guy. Otherwise, the other guy might try to take us over. This is how we're
Yeah.
still living. So
Yeah.
let's we're fallen people that need God, but with Him and in Him, things fall into place. Answers come.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you're saying, I'm just thinking about Nietzsche back in the 1800s and how he had predicted that if we don't have God, they think he was an atheist, in case anyone here doesn't know that, but he was saying that the society would pretty much collapse. And we did see in the communist era with the USSR and China and 120 million people perishing because of these horrible things happening. And today, what's going on in Venezuela. In North Korea, I mean, we've just got some in Cuba. I mean, I could probably go on and on, but those ideologies come out of atheism a lot of ways. Now, atheists don't like when I say that, but the communists, like those communists, were explicitly atheists, and some of their ideas do have to do with things like moral relativism, and that we don't have this external moral accountability. But actually, we do, of course. So I hope you like, subscribe, and do choose to come again. I really appreciate it. So whether you eat, drink, or whatever you do, do it all in the glory of God.